Do you ever feel like the world is moving too fast, while your soul is begging for stillness? There's a kind of tiredness that doesn't come from the body. It comes from the mind, a quiet exhaustion from always chasing, always doing, always bracing for the next demand. And in this endless motion, peace can feel like a distant shore we never quite reach. But what if peace isn't something we have to find outside? What if it's been waiting within us all along, still, patient, and eternal? In this ever-turning world, where noise surrounds us and pressure never sleeps, Buddhism offers us a gentle reminder: the calm you seek is already within you. Not something to acquire, but something to return to. Today, let's walk together, not toward escape, but toward a deeper awareness. Toward the kind of calm that doesn't break when life gets hard. A steady flame that keeps burning, even in the winds of change. We'll explore 10 timeless teachings from Buddhist wisdom. Each one a quiet doorway to inner peace. Each one a step towards stillness that endures. Let's begin. Lesson 1. The strength to pause before you react. The world will test you. Words will sting. People will misunderstand. Unexpected chaos will rise like a storm, but before you react, there is a breath. And in that breath is power. The Buddha once said, "Remain calm in praise or blame." He wasn't teaching us to be indifferent, but to be rooted. Because when we react without awareness, we hand over our peace. But when we pause, breathe, and observe, we stay grounded. That tiny space between stimulus and response is where your true self lives. You don't need to attend every battle life invites you to. You don't need to defend yourself against every opinion. Each time you choose stillness over impulse, you plant a seed of unshakable peace. Like a tree that does not break in the wind, your inner world becomes steady, even when the outer world is not. Lesson 2. The river of life never stands still. Everything you love, everything you fear, everything you cling to, will change. This is not a warning, it's a liberation. We live in the illusion that things should stay the same, that happiness should last forever, that pain will never pass. But Buddhism teaches us, nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent, and in that truth, there is deep peace. Look around you, seasons shift, people grow apart, even the face you see in the mirror changes. Like a river, life keeps flowing. The more we try to hold on, the more we suffer. Daniel once lost his job and felt like the ground beneath him collapsed. Days were heavy, and nights even heavier. But time, as it always does, moved on. And with it, so did he. He discovered parts of himself he had forgotten. The sorrow didn't stay, nor did the fear. The Buddha's teaching is simple. All things arise and pass away. When you learn to flow with change instead of fighting it, peace finds you. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped clinging. Accept the waves. Let them come. Let them go. In that surrender, you'll discover something remarkable. A peace that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. Lesson 3. The root beneath the restlessness. So much of our suffering doesn't come from the world itself. It comes from our resistance to it. From the quiet voice inside that says, "This isn't enough. This isn't how it should be." We live in a constant state of longing for more comfort, more love, more approval, more certainty. We become trapped in the idea that happiness lies somewhere just out of reach. When we get the promotion, when we fix the relationship, when we finally have control. And so, we keep running, chasing a mirage that only leads us deeper into exhaustion. John's story is one many of us know all too well. He had worked hard, put in the hours, exceeded expectations. And like anyone would, he hoped for recognition. He dreamed of the title, the pay raise, the validation. But when the promotion went to someone else, his thoughts turned bitter. Why not me? I earned it. I deserved it. That one unfulfilled desire became a storm inside him. His focus crumbled. His days became colored with disappointment. Peace was no longer within reach. not because of what happened, but because of the way he held on to what didn't. But John did something rare. Instead of blaming the world, he turned inward. He asked himself, what am I really holding on to? And why? As he began to let go of his need for things to unfold a certain way, a soft lightness returned. He didn't stop caring about his work, but he stopped tying his happiness to a specific outcome. And in that surrender, he found something far more powerful than any title: peace of mind. The Buddha taught that craving, the endless thirst for what is not, is the root of our suffering. Not because desires are wrong, but because we believe we cannot be whole without them. True freedom begins when we no longer measure our peace by what we achieve or acquire. When we loosen our grip on how life should be, we find the space to breathe in how it actually is. And in that space, contentment is born. We don't need to stop dreaming, but we do need to stop believing that happiness only lives on the other side of our desires. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means returning to the present moment, where peace patiently waits, untouched by gain or loss. Lesson 4: The Quiet Revolution of Mindfulness. Real peace isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with a dramatic entrance or solve all your problems in one breath. It comes quietly, when your mind stops rushing to the past or racing into the future. It comes when you return, even for a moment, to the here and now. But most of us don't live here. We live in yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's worries. Our minds are like restless birds, always flying, never landing. We replay conversations. We anticipate disasters. And in the process, we miss the only place where life actually happens: now. Mindfulness is the gentle art of remembering the present, not with force, but with kindness. It's the act of noticing, really noticing, what's already around you. The sensation of breath entering your nose, the sound of leaves brushing against the wind, the feeling of your heartbeat slowing as you pause. These are not distractions. They are doorways back to yourself. John, once again, offers a quiet example. One evening, after a long day, his mind was tangled with thoughts. He kept going over a mistake he'd made at work. He worried about an upcoming deadline. Anxiety pulsed beneath his skin. But instead of letting it carry him away, he paused. He stepped outside, closed his eyes, and simply listened to the rustle of the wind, the soft hum of life around him. And for those few moments, the storm quieted. His situation hadn't changed, but his mind had. That is the gift of mindfulness. It doesn't solve your problems, but it gives you space to face them with steadiness. Mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's not about always being calm or never getting lost in thought. It's about returning over and over again to this moment, to your breath, to your body, to your awareness. And every time you return, even briefly, the noise of the world softens and something ancient within you begins to awaken: presence. The Buddha once compared the untrained mind to a wild elephant, but with gentle training, through attention, through care, it becomes still, strong, peaceful. So start small. One breath, one pause, one step into now. And watch as the present moment, which once felt so ordinary, begins to bloom with quiet miracles. Lesson 5: The Gentle Power of Non-Attachment. We often believe that love means holding on tightly, clinging to people, to memories, to outcomes we've imagined. But in truth, the tighter we hold, the more we suffer. Attachment is like holding onto a burning rope with bare hands. The more we grip, the more we get burned. And yet, we do it all the time. We say, "I can't lose this person," or "I need this to work out," as if our happiness is tied to a single thread. But real peace is found not in clinging, but in letting go with love. Non-attachment isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about loving without fear, giving without expectation, and being present without needing to control. Picture a butterfly resting in your open hand. If you try to trap it, it will struggle or die. But if your palm is open and gentle, it might choose to stay. That's what non-attachment feels like. Open-hearted and free. David learned this through heartbreak. When his long-term relationship ended, it felt like his whole world collapsed. His mind spiraled into the past, replaying every conversation, questioning every choice. He believed that if he could just understand, he might get back what he lost. But all that clinging only made the wound deeper. It took time and tenderness. But eventually David began to soften his grip. He didn't stop loving. He simply stopped needing. And in that surrender, something beautiful happened. His heart began to heal. He realized he didn't have to forget the person. He could carry the love forward without carrying the weight. He shifted his focus inward, nurturing the parts of himself that had been neglected. Slowly, peace returned, not because the past was rewritten, but because he stopped resisting what was. Buddhist wisdom teaches that impermanence is the nature of all things. People come and go. Circumstances shift. Even the breath we hold now will pass. To resist this truth is to invite suffering. But to embrace it, to walk hand in hand with change, is to unlock a deeper, unshakable peace. Non-attachment doesn't strip life of meaning. It fills it with clarity. When we stop gripping out of fear, we create space for healing, for growth, for freedom, to love without possession, to care without control, to be present without demand. This is the essence of non-attachment. And in that gentle release, our hearts finally rest. Lesson 6. The sacred stillness of silence. In a world flooded with noise, notifications, opinions, endless chatter, silence has become rare, almost sacred. And yet within silence lies the doorway to everything we seek: clarity, presence, peace. It is in the stillness that the storm inside us begins to calm. We often mistake silence for absence. But true silence is not empty, it is full. Full of insight, full of presence, full of the quiet voice we've long ignored. The Buddha himself often retreated into quiet forests, not to escape the world, but to return to its essence. He knew that in the quiet, the truth becomes visible. Samuel's life was loud. Deadlines, meetings, responsibilities, they all competed for his attention. Each morning began with urgency, and each night ended with exhaustion. But then, something shifted. One morning, he chose differently. He sat alone on his balcony, no phone, no distractions, just his breath, the chirping of birds, and the quiet hum of the world waking up. At first, the silence felt awkward, even unsettling. But then, it began to reveal its gift. In that stillness, he noticed how tired his mind was. He saw how much he had been running without rest, and slowly, as his breath deepened and the noise fell away, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Silence, you see, is not an escape. It's a return to your essence, a space where your soul can breathe. In the gaps between thoughts, you rediscover who you are beneath all the roles, all the expectations. Just presence, just being. The great masters didn't teach with endless words. They often taught with pauses, with space, because the deepest truths are not shouted, they're felt in silence. When we quiet the outer noise, the inner wisdom speaks, not in dramatic voices, but in subtle nudges, soft insights, quiet understanding. Make time each day for silence, even 5 minutes. Sit without needing to do. Listen without needing to respond. Let your breath anchor you. Let the present moment hold you. In this stillness, the frantic world slows down, and your heart remembers what truly matters. You don't need a mountain cave or a meditation cushion to find stillness. It lives in your breath, your pause, your willingness to stop. In silence, we stop reacting and start seeing. And in that seeing, we find not emptiness, but fullness. A stillness that doesn't just calm us, but transforms us. Lesson 7. Let go of ego to discover true peace. The ego whispers constantly, be right, be admired, be in control. It's the voice that compares, competes, and clings to image. It tells us that our worth depends on how we're seen by colleagues, family, the world. And so we armor ourselves with opinions, titles, and the need to win every conversation. But this endless proving, this struggle to be someone, it wears us down. The harder we try to defend the ego, the more restless we become. True peace begins the moment we loosen our grip on that voice. Olivia used to feel tense at family dinners. A small disagreement over something as simple as a recipe would light a fire inside her. She needed to be right, needed to correct, needed to be seen as the one who knew best. But it never brought her joy, only friction. One evening, she made a quiet decision. She listened without interrupting. She let others speak without correcting them. She smiled instead of pushing back. And something softened, both in her and in the room around her. The conversations flowed, the atmosphere lightened, and Olivia felt something unfamiliar yet beautiful, calm. In releasing the ego's need to be right, she found connection. In letting go of pride, she found peace. This is the paradox the Buddha taught. When we drop the illusion of self-importance, our true self emerges, quiet, grounded, radiant. Letting go of ego isn't about losing identity. It's about shedding the false armor that keeps us distant and defensive. It's about stepping into presence with open hands and an open heart. We are not our titles, our victories, or our need to win. We are presence, awareness, compassion. And when we rest in that truth, the war within us ends. Lesson 8. Accept what you cannot control. So much of our suffering is born not from life itself, but from our resistance to it. We want the world to move to our rhythm. We want people to act the way we expect. We want stability in a world built on change. And when things don't unfold according to our plan, we tighten, push, and rage against reality. But peace does not live in control. It lives in surrender. There are things you can influence, and there are things you cannot. Wisdom is knowing the difference and choosing to focus your energy on what's truly within your hands. Mia learned this in the middle of a storm. Her company announced sudden layoffs, and 2 close friends lost their jobs overnight. Though her own position was safe, her heart was shaken. The fear of uncertainty gripped her. She couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. She kept replaying the scenario in her mind, trying to predict the next wave of loss. But one morning, in the quiet of her thoughts, she asked herself, "What am I really fighting?" The answer was clear: reality. And so she let go of what she couldn't control. Not with apathy, but with clarity. She showed up for her friends. She focused on her work. She nurtured her own well-being. The fear didn't vanish, but it stopped ruling her life. In that surrender, strength was born. Acceptance is not giving up. It's waking up. It's standing like a tree in the wind, bending, not breaking. It's choosing to respond rather than react. It's turning inward when the outside world spins. The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from what happens, but from our resistance to what happens. When we loosen that resistance, even life's harshest moments become teachers. Acceptance teaches us to stop wasting energy fighting what is, and to start living with what can be. Let the wind blow. Let the river flow. You do not need to dam the stream. You only need to float wisely. In doing so, you'll discover that peace was never outside you. It was always there, waiting beneath the struggle, quiet and steady, like the earth beneath your feet. Lesson 9. Choose kindness over judgment. When we judge, we divide. Our minds become restless and our hearts grow rigid. We begin to label others, good or bad, right or wrong, worthy or unworthy. And slowly, without realizing it, We isolate ourselves in a prison of criticism. Judgment feels like control, but it's a subtle form of suffering. It separates us from others and weighs heavily on our spirit. But compassion, it does the opposite. It doesn't excuse poor behavior, but it opens the door to understanding. It reminds us that behind every sharp tone or distant gaze is often a hidden story, one filled with fear, exhaustion, or grief. Emma felt this at a small grocery store one afternoon. The cashier was distant, abrupt, barely looked up. Emma's first instinct was to match the energy, to respond coldly, but then she paused. She breathed, and she saw not a rude person, but a tired soul. So instead of snapping back, she simply said, "Thank you," with warmth in her eyes. For just a moment, the cashier's face softened. This is the gentle miracle of compassion. It disarms hostility, not by force, but by presence. It doesn't require us to fix others. It simply asks us to remain kind in a world that often forgets kindness. Each time we choose understanding over judgment, we make the world, and ourselves, lighter. You don't need to carry the heavy weight of blame. You can let it go. You can rest in patience, in empathy, and that is a quiet kind of freedom. Lesson 10. Let gratitude be your ground. Gratitude is a silent balm. It softens the sharp edges of longing and brings color back into ordinary moments. In a world always pushing us toward more success, more possessions, more goals, gratitude gently says, "Look again. What you need might already be here." It doesn't mean denying the hard days. It means noticing what still shines in spite of them. Leo was always chasing something: deadlines, promotions, a sense of relief that never seemed to arrive. Each morning felt like a race, each night a collapse. But when he began to write down just one thing he was thankful for, something shifted. A quiet cup of coffee, a cool breeze at dawn, a kind word from a colleague. The noise didn't vanish, but he carried it differently. He walked slower, breathed deeper, smiled more. This is the power of gratitude. It doesn't erase life's storms, but it teaches you how to stand in the rain without drowning. It grounds you, reminds you that even now something is okay. Even now there is enough. And when you begin to notice those small blessings, you discover the great secret. Peace was never somewhere else. It was here, in this moment, waiting to be seen. Conclusion: the journey inward begins with a breath. If these teachings found their way into your heart today, then you've already taken the first step toward a quieter life. A life not ruled by ego, but guided by presence. Not hardened by judgment, but softened by compassion. Not frantic for more,